So let's stop before the unstressed vowel deletion rule. So that seems not to have worked. How do you get unstressed syllables? Lexurgy debugging mode engaged. See, at this point, I don't consider this struggling with tech. This is like problem solving. This is joy. This is like doing a Sudoku, you know, this is amazing. YouTube. Oh my goodness. Such a pleasure to have you back here as usual. We got some Blombo Dombo to work on, right? So let's just do that. I don't see any reason that we should drag it out any further. So over here, we have reached the point of Proto-Tbæk, and I've seen there are so many great ideas in the chat. I'm seeing a lot of desire for some mutation in Blombo Dombo. I see Quanti. I see that you've put in a request for a mutation. Just check the Discord in the break. I'm seeing we need prenatalized stops. We need constant. Okay, so let me write down some of these things, because if I don't write things down, well, and sometimes even if I do write things down, it's a lost cause. So let's go over here and let's just put our little Blombo Dombo wish list. This is the wish list. So mutation. So constant mutation, and you don't have to twist my arm in order to get constant mutation in a language. It's one of my favorite morphological features. It's one of the only ones that I have actually researched myself. So that's very cool. I also think we want Quanti's suggestion to do some vowel mutation. We'd often think about vowel mutation. This is called, you know, things like umlaut or affection. Affection or affectation, I forget. There's something in Celtic linguistics about that. Apophony in Romance linguistics. So we want some vowel mutation. We want some prenasalized stops. And yeah, I'm seeing bouncy sounds. Bouncy sounds in structure. How do we interpret this? That's going to be the fun of it. Trochees, that's what I want. That's my main thing. And I wonder if we can get away without having a lot of front vowels. I feel like this should be a very back vowel heavy language, but we know that the vowel space likes to be used, so it's hard, but we'll see what we can do. Labials. Oh, Maj, I like that idea. Back vowels. Maybe we can achieve our goal. So we have front vowels, but they are weak and they get overridden by back vowel harmony. Let's say back dominant vowel harmony. Elijah. Metathesis is for mountainizing sonority. Yeah. So this is absolutely the case. We don't want to just metathesize willy-nilly, but the way to do sonority hierarchy respecting sonority sequencing principle respecting metathesis in lexurgy, I'll show you what it looks like. It's not pretty. Where is it? So this isn't metathesis. This is apocopy, so deletion of schwa. This is in Eustamia. No, this is in Linothylev. These are the rules for Linothylev. And just go zoom in here a bit. No, apparently you can't do that. So you need this really elaborate multi-step rule that has a lot of stuff, and I don't want to deal with it right now. So the eventual rule for metathesis will need to be sonority sequencing principle respecting, but for now, we'll just leave it as is because it works. But I'll put in a little note. Oh yeah, by the way, I saw this in the chat earlier. Someone pointed this out, but just in case you missed it, comments are done with an octothorpe, which is the name for this character here. Okay. It's used more modernly as a hashtag, but the actual grapheme is traditionally at least called an octothorpe, although you'll hear people call it a pound sign as well. That's what I grew up calling it. Only recently have people started to call it hashtag primarily. But it was around before Twitter and everything like that. Anyway, what were we going to do? Yeah, so we need to find a way of getting that second syllable in here. And I think the way to do it will be to come up with secondary stress and preserve the secondary stress. But we'll need some more words. We'll need some more words. So let's just come up with an example word. Balomibo. So let's see what we get from this. Okay, so we need to balo. This is going to do balomibo. How are we going to get blombo out of this? Bob. Yeah, I see. This is the problem with the metathesis rule as is. Okay, so let's just do something like tana. So we need to get secondary stress in here. How do we do that in lexurgy? I have not done that yet, so let's figure it out. La. Where are my lexurgy dogs? Oh, here they are. Hello. Is this thing on? Right? Secondary stress. Okay. Interesting. Feature stress, unstressed primary, secondary. Yeah, so this is kind of a problem with dealing with stress in this way as a feature. Because stress isn't a feature like these other features. It's not a feature like, voiced. Although it was considered that in SPE, which is sort of 1960s era phonology. SPE, by the way, sound pattern of English. Very, very classic work. One that I now own in hard copy. Just something I'm proud of. Anyway, so the problem is that stress doesn't really work like that. Stress is something that has various levels. So you have things like primary and secondary stress, and you don't get like stress assimilation. You don't, when stress is on one syllable, the next syllable, if anything, is very unlikely to be stressed because stress doesn't like to be up against, two stressed syllables don't like to be up against one another. That's called stress clash, and often the stress is reassigned to prevent that. You can think of things like the English word 13, but when you put it next to a noun, you often get 13, like 13 candles, 16 candles. I guess that's the more cinematic reference. So yeah, stress doesn't work in any way like other features. Other features like to spread from segment to segment. Stress does not. Stress has this rhythmic quality, so often you'll get words where you have one syllable stressed and then the even number syllables, radiating out from that like to be stressed as well, although less so. And so that's where we get things like secondary stress. So it's really not a great way to represent stress, to represent stress using a feature system like this. Yeah, so how do we get that into the system? Maybe we don't need to distinguish between primary and secondary. We can just do secondary. So then what we'll do, I think, is make this kind of iterative. So then we stress syllables if they are, let's see if this will work, 2 away from a stressed syllable. I guess not. Fair enough. Let's see why that doesn't work. Because that should give us tan. So let's stop before the umlaut rule. Let's stop before the unstressed vowel deletion rule. So that seems not to have worked. How do you get unstressed syllables? How do you get the rule to refer to syllables? Lexurgy debugging mode engaged. Can you do syllable features? See you, Maddie. Good night. See, at this point, I don't consider this struggling with tech. This is like problem solving. This is joy. This is like doing a Sudoku. This is amazing. Yeah, how do we do this? Use syllable in the rule. But how do I tell it that the syllable has to be stressed? That's the thing. That's what I want to know. So Not sure. I'm not sure it's the most interesting thing to watch me try and figure it out, though. Let's see if the chat has any thoughts. Okay, so while we're talking about stress, Sutton mentioned that stress is quite varied. And yes, it is, especially the phonetic correlates of stress. Those are, I'll just come over here and do this. The phonetic correlates of stress are quite different from, or at least can be quite different from language to language. So often it's realized as an increase in pitch, but sometimes it's realized as a decrease in pitch. Sometimes it's realized as an increase in length. Sometimes it's realized as an increase in volume, right? But this is language specific. What is not, what seems to be shared among many languages, if not all, but is the aspects of stress which are kind of structural, and how that structural notion of relative prominence of different syllables is cashed out in a language will differ. And it's very hard to find universal correlates of those things. Actually, it's very hard to find universal phonetic correlates of a lot of things, which is kind of interesting. So we have these more abstract categories that seem to pattern in similar ways from language to language, but when you try and actually figure out what physically those things correspond to, it's a lot harder, which is kind of cool. And that's why phonologists have jobs and that everyone isn't just a phonetician. Phonologists don't have a lot of jobs, though, I have to be honest with you there. Anyway, we are working still towards Blombo Dombo. I want to figure out how to get this stress rule to work. I'm going to bring us back over to the side. And let's see. Maybe if I do this, it will work. Yes. It worked. Okay. So now we have tan tan. So now we can try and get our Blombo. Balomobo. This is not going to work. Balmob. No. I think we're going to have to derive that M from prenasalization, and maybe that'll be a chain shift. Lbob. Okay. So how are we going to keep this O? How are we going to keep this O, chat? How are we going to do it? I don't think we can do it. I think we've painted ourselves into a corner here. Yeah, we could do what we did with in the call languages. We could have 2 stages of vowel deletion, which gives us, we have an early deletion of schwa, then the stress assignment gets redone, and then we get deletion of everything else. I'm not sure. Maybe we should leave lexurgy to the side for a second and just sort of work. Where are we? Work with our hands. So if we have Blombo, how is this going to come? Unless we have some morphology going on here. Maybe that's a possibility. We have some sort of suffix that, like bo, that comes on. And so then we could just have, that comes on in the later on. So it's not affected by this vowel deletion rule. So then we can have balomo, and then we get lbom. Okay, that's got to stop. Yeah, that's got to stop. So let's just stop the metathesis rule for a second. Blom. So maybe it's worth our while to actually work on this metathesis rule a little bit. Okay, really good ideas came from the chat. So Maj just saying maybe it's the front vowels that get elided, which would make sense because we don't have that many front vowels in the language. And Galactus had also said we can use the metathesis to our advantage, but we have to make the metathesis rule work. So let's do that right now. So it's not that it's labiocoronal, even though it was fun to talk about privative features for a second. It's actually something more like, so let's see if we can make this work. Plus voice, minus voice. Was it voice duh? Yeah. Okay, so this gets us to back as well. and then we would have to do other things, but this will get us most of the way there. So then we get labomo, and that will still be labom because we need another side to this, which is that plus sonorant minus sonorant will also metathesize. There we go. So balomo and labomo are now done. Balomo, pitaki. Okay, so now let's use Maja's suggestion and see if we can get rid only of the. Oh, I also want Schwagon though. It's just technically not back in this feature set, so let's just get rid of that too. Great. Okay, so then we get. This is beautiful. This is beautiful. Okay, so Balomo. Blomo. Now, how do we get to Blombo? What if we have a chain shift that takes the stops? Minus sonorant minus continuant is the natural class of stops. The natural class of voice stops, picked out by these three features, and goes to prenasalized. So the voice stops become prenasalized, and then the breathy stops become plain voiced. So that would be the chain shift. Would have to apply in the other order, but you know what I mean. So actually, technically, we don't really need anything here. Yeah. So voicing shift, we could just call it. So let's do this one first. Get rid of the breathy voiced stops. Why doesn't it like it? I think I need to manually specify that those things aren't breathy. How do I get rid of the feature altogether? Is it like this? Breathy. There we go. Although that didn't work. Back to the rule book. I want to delete a feature. Find me how to delete a feature. Absent values. Does anyone know if you can delete features in lexurgy? We had a bot? Hey, does that mean we're making the big time? We got bots coming in here. Thanks, Lucy. All right. Yeah, I want to delete a feature, but I'm not sure if you can. All right, so just to be lazy, I'm going to, because no one wants to see me just messing around with lexurgy. Great. And we want B, D, G to become B, D, and I need my velar nasal. Where's my IPA keyboard when I need it most? There we go. Over here you go. And let's get our velar nasal in. So interestingly, a rule like plus breathy to minus breathy is it would work, although the problem is the way that I've defined these segments, they're not specified for breathy. Like plain B is not specified as minus breathy, so I would have to put that in the specification for lexurgy to recognize the symbol. But there's another point here, and this is another thing. Because you're taking plus breathy and making it minus breathy, you don't even need to put plus breathy in, because anything that is already minus breathy is already in the place where it needs to be. So you can just put everything goes to minus breathy. So star goes to minus breathy. That applies to any feature. So if you're changing a feature in the output, you don't need to put that feature in the input. Like if you're changing plus voice to minus voice, you don't need to put plus voice in the input, because if it's minus voice, it's already minus voice, so it applies vacuously. So all things become minus voice in whatever relevant environment. Diacritic. Ooh. You. Huh? Okay. Well, I will do that, but I will probably do that off screen because we're coming up to the end of our time and I want to complete this chain shift. So there we go. That should work. except only after a vowel shall it do this. Oh, nope, plus syllabic. And I realize that I'm not showing you what I'm doing. I apologize. So, okay, we want to finish this up. So, badaga, bandanga. And here we have it. We have balobo becoming blombo. We have done it. We have done it. We have got blombo. And we did it by doing a chain shift where our plain voiceless become prenasalized, after a vowel at least, and our breathy voice become plain voiced. And there we go. We got blombo. And if we want dombo, you know, that could just be domimbo. What? No. Dobo. Dombo. There we go. Ha. Okay. La bobo dobo. Yeah, I got there eventually. Well, friends, I think it is time for us to enter a more zen phase of our lives for a time. We'll say goodbye to Blombo Dombo for now, but I think we've learned a few things about lexurgy, learned a few things about phonology, and we've had a good time, you know, and also we've struggled against technology, and we have won, sort of. Right, so YouTube, thank you for joining us. We will be back next time with more of the same. So we will see you then.